A lot of people seem to be doubting Conor McGregor's chances against Nate Diaz at UFC 202, and I'm not really sure why. Sure, Nate Diaz beat him in the first fight, but at the end of the day, you look at the first round, and it was quite clear to see who the dominant fighter was, and that was Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor not only dismantled him on the feet, but he also held his own on the ground in the first round. A lot of people get caught up in that submission Nate Diaz did in the second round, the guillotine on the ground. But before that, in round one, when he was taken down, Conor McGregor successfully defended a triangle choke. And so that just proves to you one thing, is that Conor McGregor has good jiu-jitsu skills. Just because he got submitted doesn't mean his jiu-jitsu skills are weak or poor. Another aspect you have to consider about this, Nate Diaz has trained under a brilliant Brazilian jiu-jitsu camp in the Gracie family, the founders of Brazilian jiu-jitsu itself. And you've even heard Eddie Bravo say that he's been to my classes, Conor McGregor has, and he can more than hold his own. Except the factor was that Conor McGregor just didn't have that experience, didn't have that durability like Nate Diaz did, and his fitness, or lack of fitness, told, especially in the second round. Conor McGregor is used to knocking guys out in the first round. Jose Aldo defended his championship for a decade nearly. And Conor McGregor just knocked him out in 11 seconds to be precise. The official time was around 14, but by the time the referee stops it, there's a bit of lag. So technically it's a little quicker than 14 seconds. And so that just proves, Conor McGregor has that lethal left hand. And when he hit Nate with it, it was just a completely different ball game. Not only could he take the hit, but he could take multiple hits. And this was a completely different side to what Conor McGregor faced in the 145-pound division, where he had to cut weight enormously, an enormous amount of weight. And yet he still was the most dominant champion there because he has the height and the reach, and his skill is very, very high. And not a lot of people understand that, he's not just a talker. He can walk the talk. He is just a guy who has both the promotional abilities to sell the fight, and he's also a fighter at heart. You don't see fighters going up in weights. You don't see, if anything, you see them going down in weight. And you look at a cross sport, say like boxing, where Amir Khan got knocked out by Canelo Alvarez, and up until that point he was doing okay. Similar to Conor McGregor here, Conor McGregor he was actually winning the first round. He dominated, and then Nate picked him off because his fitness was not up to scratch. So we have to consider here that this is a new fight. Conor McGregor is going to come into this fight with new understandings of how to adapt to a bigger opponent, someone who has a longer reach than he does. Although Conor also has, a long reach himself and has a big build on him in terms of his body size. So it's not unfeasible for Conor McGregor to win this fight. A lot of people are tipping against Conor McGregor, but if I was looking at this fight, I'd say, why isn't Conor McGregor the outright favourite? Given what he has understood about Nate Diaz, given what he did to him in the first round, how can you expect him not to do that again? Yes, Nate Diaz didn't have a full training camp, but the one thing you have to remember here, Nate Diaz is a triathlon athlete. He runs triathlons and he does swimming, and he is a cardiovascular endurance beast. He can run all day. He can swim all day in the purest sense. And it's not unfeasible for him also to come into the fight and still hold his own in the, up to 5 rounds, because he has that fitness base behind him even when he's not fighting. So I don't think that Nate Diaz, even though he did a training camp, the aerobic side of things, I mean, there's not going to be much difference. There's not going to be much improvement for Nate. If anything, it will be his anaerobic power, the ability to hurt Conor McGregor. Because when he fought him and landed that jab and the big 1-2 to knock him out, not to knock him out, to stun him, Conor McGregor said himself that he was very fatigued at that point. His senses were still there, but the combination of fatigue, he was drowning in the octagon, and Nate just popped him. So it was a combination of things. And since Conor has undertaken a really strict training regime this time around, you have to wonder, there's obviously going to be some improvements, whereas with Nate, the aerobic side of things, that will stay relatively similar. It will improve because he's actually had a training camp, but it's about how Conor can affect his power onto Nate, whether he can last the 5 rounds. And because I think they're preparing for a 5-round fight, but I think because Nate can take a hit. He's only been technically TKO'd once in his whole UFC career, maybe even his whole MMA career to date. So Conor is going to have that durability, that extra durability, and he's going to... I mean, I can't see Nate Diaz winning round 1. If you think about it, the way Conor just picked him apart in the first round, how can you expect Nate to do that to Conor in the first round? His best chances will come in the second, the third, because Conor is just so explosive and he's training extremely hard. He's got his new media platform called the Mac Life on YouTube. I recommend checking that out, where he posts in-depth insights on his training regime, and he's been doing long bike cycles. He's also been doing, lots of Jiu-Jitsu and bringing in credentialed athletes to mimic Nate Diaz's style, because in the past, Conor McGregor just trained how he wanted to. Now he's training more specific because he knows Nate has very strong strengths, and so he needs to prepare for that in advance. So in this upcoming match, I won't be surprised if Conor McGregor wins. I mean, this is his Muhammad Ali moment. You only get a few of these fights every decade where your legacy is really on the line, and not just in the sense of personal pride, but in the history of sports. Not just losing a title, gaining a title. Even though this is not a title fight, it's the most important fight of Conor McGregor's career, and also Nate Diaz, to vindicate that first performance, because Conor is, if you compare it to the Rumble in the Jungle match with Muhammad Ali and George Foreman, granted they're not heavyweights, but let's just say for the sake of this, Conor is Muhammad Ali. Nate Diaz is George Foreman. Nate Diaz is bigger. He has also got a longer reach. And Muhammad Ali, who no one thought would win, managed to beat him with movement and with tactical nous. And Conor understands that. Conor understands that it's not going to be about the punches. It's going to be about the intellect, thinking as the fight is happening. And that's why Floyd Mayweather was such a great boxer, because he was always thinking inside the ring. He wasn't going on instinct most of the time, like a Manny Pacquiao, who's also a thinker in terms of boxing. But if you look at the pinnacle of boxing, Floyd Mayweather is just the ultimate technician. And so this is Conor McGregor's Ali Foreman moment. This could really define the history of sports and the way, fighters treat going up in weight, going down in weight, because a lot of people fear going up in weight because the challenge is, hard. And obviously it is. And if you lose, Conor McGregor is having a straight rematch, an immediate rematch, and he needs to vindicate his performance because he's leaving Jose Aldo without a title shot rematch, which he deserves in the first instance. So I won't be surprised if Conor McGregor wins this fight. Just look at the first round of their first matchup. And it should be an exciting fight, August 20. Can't wait.